One thing you don't want to do, and this is something Steve Sims taught me, was say, whatever you need, I got you. Or what can I do for you? And I
Mm,
think we talked about this a little at dinner at Mosaic. But like when you say whatever you need or anything you need, I got you, you're actually giving them a task because now they have to come up with the thing that they need for you to do. And it sounds a little conceited, but you have to think about it. If you're somebody that has, 1,000 people hitting you up saying, whatever you need, you know, then they got to be like, okay, well, like, what do I need? And then you're delegating tasks, and it's a whole thing. But if you have someone that says, hey, I've been paying attention to your brand, like your podcast, I understand you have high caliber guests, but you haven't had this person. I might be able to get that person on your podcast, yes or no. If you frame it in a yes or no way, when you approach someone and you're trying to create a connection with them, and all they have to do is say, yes, that sounds like a good idea, or no, or in the case of Lewis Howes, I asked him a very simple question where he only has to answer with a name, then they're more likely to, get the conversation going.
in life, most people are operating out of past memories, traumas, and experiences. Very few rare individuals are able to operate with a childlike wonder out of the imagination and the vision. Whenever I met someone who's able to operate out of that childlike imagination, I deeply admire that person. And we have one such a superstar with us on this recording. He's one of the most interesting person that I've ever had the honor of meeting and now the privilege of befriending. He's known as the DM Slider with a passion for exotic cars, over-the-top life experiences. Well,
Love
Colette.
it, man. I appreciate the intro.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you've been a big influence in my life because for a large part of my life, I've been just kind of oblivious in terms of building a personal brand. I was in the real estate business. In real estate, it's funny because you just want to be the landlord that's collecting money. You don't want anybody to kind of know you. You're hiding behind the
Yeah.
trust, behind LLC. So stepping into this world, it's like, wow, I'm way behind the game. And you have such a unique gift. You have such a unique experience about building connection. And perhaps we'll touch base on that. What's like the art of connection for someone who's just kind of like completely oblivious? Give us some basics. How do I become an effective connector?
Okay. Yeah, I think I actually was talking to my girlfriend about this recently about different ways that you can be rich or
Mm,
wealthy. And I think the thing that I have in spades is a network because the network of people that I have, both friends, colleagues, people I work with, clients, are just top tier. I mean, like
mm,
the Rolodex in my cell phone is so elite, and it comes from the approach of what can I do for you? Because in a place like LA, when you meet new people, all the time they're kind of vetting you about like, okay, well, like how can this person advance my brand or what do they have to offer to me? And when you meet someone and kind of see them eye to eye on like a level playing field of what does this person have to bring to the table that I might be able to learn from, but at the same time, and more importantly, what can I do for them? And you
mm.
approach it from an angle of service, you start to build connections really fast because people can catch that authenticity and that like genuine want and life of service from you very quickly. And especially in a place like LA, it's a breath of
Mm,
fresh air. So you can have, we'll just call them like people of a higher caliber that might have more resources or a bigger network themselves or a platform, whatever you have it.
mm.
If they can get the sense that you're not in it to like grab something from them, they'll start to, let down a lot of their walls a lot faster. And then you can build real connections with them. And there's plenty of friends I have that have plenty of resources that I've never
Mhm,
tapped into because
mhm,
just the friendship is
mm,
plenty. And then
mhm,
there's friends that I have that I've connected with where, maybe they are just, they're just pleasant to be around, but I have a lot of resources and solutions and things that they're able to leverage. And then
mhm.
occasionally you get lucky and you'll meet someone that you're just the pleasant person to be around. And that's enough value add for them. And they have
Let's
a bunch
go.
of resources and things that they can bring to the table for you. So it's fun to make those kinds of connections. And I think if you're all in it to just kind of help each other, which sounds so Disney and cliche,
Mhm.
but if you're really about it, it's pretty obvious.
I love that. I love what you said on that. But I'm curious for the younger listeners out there, or people that are starting off in their career. Hey, they
Mm,
got bills to pay and they got sales to make and the
mm,
rent's coming due. I mean, obviously we're a little seasoned in our career. We're a little bit seasoned in our connection where we're able to have
mm,
that luxury, say, hey, let's go in with a service attitude, service mindset, because we're a little bit more established. But for someone
mm.
starting off, when the reality is, man, life just hang on by the ropes. How do they
Mhm.
have that service mindset when they are just hanging on by the ropes? Yeah.
Dude, this is such a good question. And the
Uh,
best example I have of how to frame this
yeah,
involves Mosaic Church in Irwin. Because I
let's
remember moving to
go.
LA, I had like
Yeah.
literally $300 in my bank account. I didn't have any cool cars. Like I didn't really know anyone. Rent was 1,500 a month, which was crazy. Moving from a place like Utah, where I think I was paying like 700 a month to live in like a big house,
Yeah.
I was paying 1,500 a month, and I was making $750 paychecks. So twice a month I was getting a paycheck that barely covered rent. So you want to talk about somebody that like really was struggling to make ends meet? Like I had to take on side jobs to cover my gas and food. And
Oh my
then
gosh.
more than that to do fun stuff like go out
Yeah.
to eat at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
So it was and I remember going to Mosaic. It was one of the earlier services that I went on because I've been going since 2018. So it was around the 2018 timeframe
Hmm.
when I was sitting in the sanctuary and they talked about giving. And they were like,
Mm.
we're trying to buy the building at the time. They were worried about getting pushed out. And I remember I was with one of my best friends, Ella, who was visiting from Australia. She didn't have a job. I didn't have a job at the time. At this time, I was unemployed, kind of looking for work in LA.
Hmm.
The perfect example of a starving artist. I had a photography talent. Occasionally, I get like $100 shoot, and like that was it. And I was burning through my savings, and
Hmm.
it was going away pretty quick. And they basically give this really good sermon and we're like, hey, we need help, we need money. And
Mm.
Ella pulled out like her purse or something and pulled out whatever loose, dollars and she had and threw it in. And
Wow.
she was so excited about it. I'm like, not only is this girl unemployed, but she's in another country too. Like she
Yeah.
is in like she's playing LA on veteran mode. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, I got $100 cash I keep in my car for like emergency gas money. I have that. In my head, I was like, I have that.
Yeah.
And I remember after the sermon was done, I ran to the parking garage and ran all the way back to Mosaic with a $100 bill and put it in the little cash drawer or whatever for the donations. And I was like, dang, that's like a lot of money for me right now. Like that was like
Yeah.
I could get a good bit of groceries off $100, and like that was like a whole photo shoot to me. So like handing off 100 was a lot.
Mm.
And I remember Joe Smith talks about this a lot too in some of his sermons, where he's like, if you don't give when you have a little bit, you're not going to give when you have a lot.
Totally.
So you
Couldn't agree
mentioned
more.
like it's
Mm.
it's more comfortable when like yeah you have more resources, you're more established or whatever. But if you don't, it's kind of like going to the gym and doing reps. If you don't practice giving, $1 when you're making 100 or something similar, you're
Mhm.
not going to give 1,000. When you're making a lot more, or you're not going
Mm.
to. The church asks for 10%, but you can look at it as a financial tithe, or you can look at it as your time.
Mm.
Whatever it is you want to give in terms of service, you have to practice it when you don't have a lot of it.
Let's go.
So I
Yeah.
think building that habit super early on, when I was, because I remember taking $20 bills out of my pocket when I was in college to give to the church or to like donate to charities and stuff, and then
Mm.
like volunteering at like soup kitchens and stuff. Again, like giving my time, like during finals week and stuff. If there was a soup kitchen, I was there every time
Mm.
because I was like, I'm gonna find the time in this crazy schedule, because when my schedule gets more crazy, when I grow up and I have really big commitments, I'm gonna still have that room in my heart to be like, other people still get some of my time,
Mm.
because it affects how you like how you carry yourself, because you're exercising that muscle of service. I'm here for other people. I'm here for other people. So I think get used to it when you don't have a lot.
And just give disclosure, that's exactly where I met Will. Mosaic Church, for those that don't know, is a Christian church in LA. I was there for a conference, and this guy, his charisma just attracted me. His ability to tell story, he's interesting over the top. You can even hear in his voice how he kind of framed that story about his journey to tithing right there. And so, Will, moving forward a little bit since 2018, lots obviously happened. How has your
Mm.
connection journey gone? Yeah.
Dude, it's insane.
Uh,
The When I first got to LA, I was
mhm.
making a lot of connections. I know you like jokingly said like I'm known as the DM slider,
Yeah.
but that's for real.
You
Like
are. You are.
I was messaging people on Instagram left and right,
Yeah.
and like I used Instagram as a networking tool, because when I
Mhm.
was an Air Force captain stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base, well, I was in Air Force Lieutenant at the time. I had 5 days locked on with the military in the middle of nowhere. And then I had 2 days if I drove an 8 hour round trip to get to LA and back on the weekends. And I wanted to make sure that by the time I got to LA on a Friday night, I already had stuff lined up, whether it was meetings or a shoot or a collaboration or something, an event to attend that I could get into for free, whatever it is. So
Wow.
that way I could get something out of that weekend. It's not just play and fun and games. I was building a network, I was playing a long
Mm.
game. because my theory was I'm going to end up in LA no matter what. That was my number one goal. But if I'm going to end up in LA, I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm going to have a big network. I'm going to have a job lined up. I'm going to do as much legwork as I can while I'm collecting paychecks in the military. So what can I do from Monday to Friday? And this is great advice for anybody that might not be in the place they want to be right now. Maybe they're located geographically far away from where they want to be. I know I was technically still in California, but I was far from LA. There was no way for me to network or do anything during the week. And on top of that, I didn't have cell service in the building I worked in. So from the hours of like 7 to like 4 something, I couldn't even use my cell phone. So I'm DM sliding on off hours or during lunch. And that was pretty much it. And I would message brands. I would message other creators. I was kind of figuring out what opening messages would get their attention. And then I would offer something of value that they couldn't refuse, something related to like a connection to someone else, or maybe I shoot an event or create a video or something like that where it solves a problem for them. And then all of a sudden, boom, I got another person in my network. And then collecting people in a network is kind of like collecting Pokemon cards, like it's like once you get like these stronger Pokemon, once you got a Charizard, you can do a lot of damage. So, maybe you have like 5 other people that really want to know Charizard and Charizard. Now, you have to be careful about how you connect people, because I've also learned the hard way in the past that when you connect people, the people you're connecting on both ends have to be as close to a direct reflection of you as possible. And here's why. Because if you take your ace connection here and introduce them to new person who you vibed with, one time when you met them here, and this person drops the ball or this person drops the ball, they're both going to look at you and be like, what was that? And you might lose both connections as a result of it. So connecting people is an art. And you have to be careful about how you do it. Now, I'm not suggesting like gatekeeping something just for the sense of like a scarcity mindset where I have these connections, they're just for me. And if I put them in touch with you, you are taking away from me. That is the worst way to look at it. And some people do look at it that way when they know someone cool. They love to flex that they know that person, but they will not by any means introduce you or put you in the same room as them. That is toxic, and that's a fast track for you to have a scarcity mindset and scarce resources. But if you, on the flip side of that, see is like let's just say I met you at Mosaic at this conference thing we were doing. And I'm like, okay, this guy's got like a great podcast. He's got great coaching skills. He has real estate experience. If anybody I meet in my network is looking for any of those 1-3 things, it's not going to take anything away from me to connect you with them. And then I've also built enough of credibility, I guess, with you to know that if I put you in touch with someone where maybe you need them or they need you, that I'm not going to have to worry about you. It's
That's
like,
right.
okay, he's going to show up. He's going to be on time. And for me, the number one thing is dependability. Are they going to do what they say they're going to do?
Integrity,
and once you start
totally.
vetting those people out and you start building those connections, especially if 2 people can make a connection because of you, then you're really playing the fire, because in like a good way, because stuff just takes off. And I remember one of the most fun connections I made was one of the most famous TikTok couples on the planet right now. There's this girl that I reached out to, and I was like, oh my God, I love your energy. You're so much fun. I have to do a photo shoot with you. You're in LA. Let's make it happen. She's like, I'm totally down. And then I messaged this music artist I heard during the pandemic. And I was like, dang, I listened to this song I heard on Discover Playlist like 7 times in a row. I was like, dude, this song is so good. I looked at his profile. He didn't really have any music videos. And I was like, okay, I want to do a video for this, and I want to do an album cover for it. And then I had another DJ where I was like, dude, let's remix it and re-release it with my music video and my album cover. And let's shoot an album cover with this girl that I messaged, because she's got great energy and it'd be cool to have her on the album cover. She's never been on a Spotify album cover. The last piece of the puzzle was a guy. So I was like, I want a guy and a girl on a Mustang or like an old classic car, and then we'll use that as the album cover. So I hit up this guy that had been doing radio show stuff out in Detroit, who was just like very charismatic, very good looking, like just had it all together, Totally. I was like, okay, this is the network. Expert radio show host guy, really famous TikToker girl who at the time only had like 100,000 followers. I think she has millions now. And the music artist who I found, and the DJ to remix it, and the car owner. And I connected these 5 influencers together, and we shot this album cover. And the girl and the guy are dating now on TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
It's Anna Sitar and Brew, the now radio host in LA. The car owner The classic car owner ended up becoming my roommate. That's Nate Ryder. He just hit 2 million TikTok followers like this month. He blew up on social
Gosh.
media. The DJ is he was a friend of my roommate's at the time. He remixed it and absolutely crushed it. The music artist's name is Catastrophic. He's the
Yeah.
one that wrote the original song, and everybody was able to become friends, and two of them got a relationship out of it just from a connection of one photo shoot. And now all of us are exploiting our networks, and we're able to
Mhm.
help each other out just because we all met from that one photo shoot. So that was like the perfect example of some people that just were everybody checked out, everybody vibed, and we all just exploded because of it.
That's absolutely incredible, man. Well, I'm curious, what drove you? Because a lot of people, they don't have that drive, especially when they
Mhm.
don't see the result right away. I take
Yeah.
story that you just shared, I kind of extrapolate the process. You didn't know
Mhm.
how it's going to end out. I got connect this guy with that guy over there. It's on the
Yeah.
radio. He's charismatic. Well, there's a
Mhm.
chance it might not work out, and then all my effort would be in vain.
Yeah.
What drive you? What keeps you going with that integrity and consistency, like you said?
Mhm.
Because I think distraction and temptation is one reason that people fall through in life, and especially doing what you're doing. It's such a multi-piece puzzle to be able to
Yeah.
frame together this massive tapestry. So curious what's your secret on that? Yeah.
It's a good question. So there's a lot of projects that I've started in the past. Ironically, real estate was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've looked at like government contracts. I've looked at affiliate marketing. I did Amazon FBA. Like I've tried different pursuits. I'm trying to pick up the guitar, like there's a bunch of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that initial like, okay, I want to try this and see where it goes. And, forcing yourself to get over that hump of like, all right, is this something that's going to be just friction for me the whole time I'm doing it? Or is there just a learning curve I need to get past and then it becomes a flow state type activity? And there's
Mm.
no real definitive timeline that I can give on like how to vet this. I think deep down it sounds again Disney and corny, but you know in your heart if it's right for you. And I would say the amount of work that I put into like just that one shoot versus like I didn't get paid for it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to see it happen. I just honestly really started with the song. I heard the song, it inspired
Wow.
me, and that is all it took. I was like, I want to do something with this. So
Mm-hmm.
like I think there's a lot of power in music, and the right song can really push me to like do a project, media related stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just vibing with the song and I'm like, I love this so much, I can't make music, but I can make something with this song. So I think that's a big motivator. But as I'm doing it, at no point in that process did I hit so much friction where I was like, okay, this isn't worth it anymore. I never considered the possible outcome of it not panning out. And
Mm.
even right up until the day of the photo shoot, there's a vlog of me and Brew driving around. We went to like 6 backup locations trying to shoot it, and everything wasn't working out. Like it almost didn't happen. But like never in the process I was like, nah, it's not worth it anymore. I'm not getting paid, and and I don't know these people that well, and just forget it. Like it was just like I had this song in my head. I had a vision, and I was super hungry to like make it happen. And then when we released a video and stuff, like it didn't go super viral, but we did it. And I was like, there it is. And every time I listen to the song now, when it
Yeah.
comes on my Spotify, I'm like, yeah, we pulled that off. That was a really fun, just
Wow.
pure, awesome memory. And then
Yeah.
every time I see a Brew and Anna video on TikTok, I'm like, this only like with millions of views. I'm like, this only exists because we did that photo shoot.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
My gosh.
So like there's other ways
Beautiful.
where stuff can give you ROI where like their relationship
Mm.
isn't, it's not like technically helping me out at all, but like you get to sit back and be like, this happened because a group of friends got together and
Oh
pulled it
my
off,
gosh.
and they're now impacting a bunch of people's lives. And guess
Yeah.
what? They also now go to Mosaic. I ran into them on accident in the sanctuary. None of us knew we all went to Mosaic.
That's
That was fun.
amazing. Early in the episode, I talked about how he operates with a service mindset and a childlike wonder.
Mhm.
Y'all just heard it right there. The ability to live in imagination and continually able to pursue that. What an art right there.
Mm.
And he's also building incredible personal brand. I know when I met you, even back in 2018, when you kind of first started, you've grown to over 250,000 followers yourself. What was that journey like for you? Well, I mean,
Are you talking about TikTok or Instagram?
well, I only have Instagram. I don't have TikTok. So, but I mean,
Okay.
you obviously have an incredible personal brand. So curious
Okay.
what's that like for you? Yeah.
Okay, before I answer your question, because I have to have you repeat it because I get distracted.
Yeah.
I have 200,000 followers on Instagram. I have 50,000 real followers. I literally got attacked by Russian bots. I had like I went to sleep. I woke up one day and it was over 200, and I was like, what? And it was like I was refreshing the page, and every time I refreshed it, there were like 50 more, and I was like, oh my god! And then it just stopped. someone had bought that many followers, sent them to my account to try to get it taken down, succeeded. I got taken down. Then I got it back and the followers are still there. So I'm like, I'm just
Uh,
stuck with that many now. On
uh,
TikTok, we're doing really well. I got almost 300,000 on TikTok, and those are all real people. But the Instagram following is, I mean, it's a solid following. It's great,
yeah.
you know, but like it's not
Yeah.
200K.
But still,
Okay, well,
nevertheless, you're amazing
yeah, well,
creating
so
content. Yeah. How do you build a personal brand for those that are just kind of starting
okay,
off in
okay.
this journey? Yeah.
So how do you build a personal brand?
Yeah.
I would say consistency in uploads, because you're going to
Mm,
discover over time what that looks like. Now,
mm,
I have a close friend of mine who is stuck in, I don't know what you call the mindset, but basically it's where he wants to kind of do a personal brand. He wants to get his name out there more. He wants to create more content. He has a vision sort of what it looks like, but he wants it to be so perfect in his head before he begins that
mm,
he has not uploaded one thing. And the
mm,
problem with that is that he's going to always be in planning state. He's never going to be in doing state. And now I've known him for 3 or 4 years now, and he's nowhere closer today than he was 4 years ago.
yeah.
And he does a lot of like awesome content for other people, but he doesn't do
Yeah.
any for himself. And he's an amazing storyteller, and he's
Yeah.
incredibly good at shooting.
Mm,
And I'm like, dude, like just start uploading, because when I first started, I was doing everything. I was doing
mm,
EDM music videos. I was shooting models. I was shooting cars. I was shooting products. I was doing like sizzle reels. I was doing television stuff. Like I was trying literally, I was mixing in military fighter jet videos I was shooting. Like I had so much random stuff on my page.
mm,
And for a while it was just will. That was just what it was. And I hadn't dialed into a niche. And it was almost like a bracket in, March Madness, where
mm,
like one at a time, I was like, that thing's not me. That thing's not me. And like, it doesn't mean you can't do those things, but I think like one of the first things to drop off was like product shooting, commercials, and television related stuff. Got rid of that. And then I
mm,
remember for a while it was EDM, because I love a good, festival,
mm,
EDM and models and cars and military. Now I was in the military,
mm,
so that was always going to be there. But then I got out of the military. Then it was just EDM, cars, and models. And then I kind of got out of the music industry because I had filmed so many shows. It was kind of same, and you couldn't really reinvent the wheel. So then it was just cars and models. And then it wasn't until recently that I was like, all right, look, like I'm putting a lot of time and energy into shooting these model shoots, not a ton of ROI there. Let's just go all in on cars. So that's what it's been. I would say like at least the last year, 2 years. But it was something I figured out over time with constant
effort.
just
Yeah.
observation of my
Yeah.
own page, and then what direction I wanted to take it. Because now
Mm,
it's not just car stuff. Now it's cars and
mm,
service, because now I've figured some stuff out. I have some skill sets and I have a following. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life talking about cars. I want to go a little bit deeper and reach a larger audience than just car guys and say, okay, well, how can we teach people to live the best story possible? So using cars is more of like punny, but like the vehicle of teaching them how to live that great story.
dude.
But I think it comes with repetition and time, and you figure it out over time. But just the key is to just start uploading whatever feels right.
Isn't that the truth? I always feel like people that are going places in life, they have a lower barrier to entry. The people that are stuck in analysis paralysis, they never quite get
That's
there.
the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
the word I
It's
was
like
looking
you
for.
just got to go for it. You learn to pivot on the spot. It's like, oh, I could improve here. I
Exactly.
could improve there. And then let's transform a little bit. And just so many of that, my limiting belief that I just want to say and give you a shout out. You inspired me. And I'll say one thing is I grew up doing cold calling in my first career as a financial investment advisor. Back then, just that was a bit, hey, cold call business, cold call, wealthy
Mm.
people. And then I came to realize what you're doing sliding DM is the modern day cold calling. It's even
Kind of, yeah.
better.
Yeah.
It's kind of like just like that because everybody
Yeah.
check their Instagram. You don't have a
Mhm.
gatekeeper because you cold call like a business account. You got to get through a
Mhm.
receptionist. You got to go through a gatekeeper to get to that decision maker, whatever
Yeah.
pitch
Yeah.
you're
Exactly.
selling that
Exactly.
person.
Mhm.
But with DM, it's like you're getting directly to the decision maker. It's even better.
Mhm.
So just
Yeah.
so many ways that
Yep.
you inspire me in building my brand. So I just want to give you a shout out on that.
I
Well,
appreciate it. You're
yeah.
really good at listening and reciprocating like ideas and putting them together really fast.
Well, when I meet someone that's inspiring like you, I listen and I take
Appreciate
action.
it. Appreciate
So,
it.
yeah. So you build a following, and then you've always been about storytelling. And how has
Mhm.
storytelling impacted your life, your career, your journey? And what are some key
Uh,
takeaways you can share with others? Yeah.
So storytelling is the easiest way to teach people, because
Mm,
you can entertain them first and you can educate them second, and you can do it all through narrative.
mm,
I was actually listening to a interview recently with Kobe. I love listening to Kobe interviews. And at one point, he was like, the one thing I wish I was better at is storytelling, which is crazy to hear
Mm,
from a guy you think does everything perfect. You know, like his
right.
life was just the pinnacle of max effort, max execution. He was like, dude, I'm like not a good storyteller. And I was like, are you kidding me? But I know he talked about storytelling. And just like when we were at that conference with Mosaic, remember we were sitting in the crowd, we had listened to
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 speakers or something like that. And I was like, you know, the one thing that none of these speakers are doing is telling stories, like
Mm,
no stories. It was just data, analytics, ideas, and PowerPoints, which is good, but it started to feel like a lecture and less like an
mm,
experience. It's
yeah.
also not how your brain saves information. Like I've been through enough military lectures to know that that's not how I'm going to remember anything. So when we were at Mosaic and we were listening to all these people, I was like, pay attention to the first person that tells a story. Do you remember who it was? Because it was very obvious when they did it.
Yeah, it was that coach
Do you
guy.
remember?
Yeah, the super me about was that him?
No,
No.
it was the keynote guy, and his
Oh, the keynote.
entire
Yeah,
presentation was story. It was
yeah,
Lewis Howes, and
yeah,
Lewis Howes was telling a story about Kobe because he
yeah.
went up there and he had the longest amount of time to speak, and he was like, "Guys, you've been listening and learning all day. The only thing I'm going to do is tell you a story." Honestly, I barely remember
Wow.
even the faces of the speakers that
Hmm.
went before him. Not
Hmm.
that they weren't good, and I'm sure if we talked about it, I'd recall a lot more memory, but
Yeah,
I could almost tell you his entire presentation from memory because it was told in the form of a story.
yeah.
So it's the easiest way to teach people. And when you leave, when you're done with life, the one thing that you will leave behind is your story, your legacy. And
Mm.
when you leave a story, what is the story telling other people? Was it a story of, how much did you succeed and how many cars did you have, or how many bottle service tables did you rent, or was it how many people's lives were impacted by yours? Which
Absolutely
one
no
do you
doubt.
think is going to
Yeah,
last longer?
yeah. Dude, this is powerful, man. May I ask you to share because you did something extraordinary that afternoon. And
Mhm.
watching that unfold, I was just my jaw just hit the floor. Basically, watching the way that you connected with Lewis House, try to deliver
Yeah, yeah.
value on the spot. May I ask you to share
Mhm.
that story to the audience? I think this
Yeah.
is something that people can take away when they do meet someone of super high caliber like Lewis, ways that they can
Yeah.
add value to someone like that.
Yeah, so this is great. So
Mhm.
you and I were like eating dinner outside the back of Mosaic,
Totally.
and
Hmm.
he happened to walk out, and you noticed him first. You were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's Lewis Howes. I got to go
Yeah.
like talk to him." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, we might as well." Like he's walking out.
Yeah.
And he got quickly bombarded by a lot of people, and they all wanted the same thing. They wanted a photo. They wanted to tell him how much they liked him, how much he impacted, whatever. It was all positive and wholesome. Like no one was really like looking for anything. But because of the environment, like it was just Mosaic, so everybody's just naturally in a very like grateful mindset.
Mhm.
But if you put yourself in Lewis Howes' shoes and you're exiting, you're basically in like thank you mode. So it's like as he's leaving, every interaction he has, it's just gonna be like, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And then he's just
Mhm.
kind of in autopilot until he gets to his car and leaves. Like he wasn't like in a rush to get out. He took time to talk with people and take photos and everything. But like he's not gonna remember faces and he's not gonna reconnect with a single person that walks up and asks for a photo or says, thank you, you changed my life. For the most part.
Mhm.
But if you hit Lewis with what I did, which is what can I do for you? He's not used to that because
Mm.
a person in his position is mostly approached by people that are of the grateful mindset, like the people at Mosaic, or um, people that are looking for ways to leverage his network or his resources, which is
Mhm.
something even I experienced today, where people will reach out to me all the time with business proposals and things, and sometimes they'll cloak it with oh, I have like a commission for you, or I
Mhm.
have this hookup or whatever. But in reality, they're just like, I see the network you have and I want it too.
Mm.
And people that have great networks like Lewis Howes can sense that very quickly.
Yeah.
So I approached him the same way that I approached Steve Sims years back, who is known as like a modern day like Wizard of Oz. He caters to like the ultra rich and he makes the craziest things happen. Like if you're like, yo, I want a backseat fighter jet ride in Russia and then I want to have dinner by the statue of David, he can like pull it off. He
Mm.
knows enough people to make that stuff happen. So of course everybody's asking him for favors, but when I reached out to him, I said, "Hey man, I noticed that you're kind of a SpaceX fan. Can I take you on a tour, on a rocket tour? Won't cost you anything. Don't need anything from you. I just think you're cool." And immediately I got his attention. Same approach with Lewis Howes. I walked up to him and I said, "Lewis, is there anyone that you've ever hoped to put on your podcast that you have been unable to reach? Because I like to think that my network is pretty strong and I might know someone that knows someone that can find the
Wow.
people you're looking for." And
Yeah.
it caught his attention. And he was like, yeah, I can tell you exactly what I'm looking for. And he hit the bar really high by giving me, he said Dwayne Johnson. And who was the other one? I wrote him down. I remember Dwayne Johnson. It
Yeah.
was like Dwayne Johnson and maybe it was a comedian. But I was like, dang, Dwayne, like I don't have Dwayne's number. But like at
Yeah.
the same time, I was thinking quick on my feet. I was supposed to be on a game show the next week. Like I was like a
Hmm.
participant. And I was like, well, Wayne Brady's on the game show. And then like Wayne Brady and The Rock follow each other on Instagram. I think they did, or maybe The Rock follows Lewis or something. But I was doing some research on Instagram and I was like, there might be a connection there. Maybe I shoot my shot with Wayne Brady and say, hey man, we got to help out my boy Lewis Howes and get The Rock on his podcast, you know? So
Mm,
I was already trying to think of ways. It didn't pan out, but I'm connected with Lewis Howes now. I'm in his primary DMs because I messaged him, you know, a minute after that interaction. I said, I'm going to do my best to find you The Rock and I will only message you when I find him. I won't, you know, I will not ask you
wow.
for anything else. And he was like, sounds good, man. And the only time I ever messaged him again was when I backed out to give him my parking space at Mosaic. And I texted him, I was like, that was me in the Camel Mustang. And he was like, oh yeah, hey, what's up? But other than that, that's how you can build a good connection with somebody is trying to figure out what problem you can solve for them and not be somebody that's asking them for something. And that was how we made that very quick connection amongst a mob of people that just wanted pictures.
That's amazing. I hope you guys were paying attention to what just said right there. A 1000% gold nugget, what he just said. And the ability to be quick on your feet. You can look at that scenario and say, oh, well, maybe he just got lucky. He just happened to be on game show. But I can tell, well, that was 10, 20 years in the making. Having that mental
Yeah.
agility to be able to think on the spot and pivot like that, try to connect the
Mhm.
dots through connection, how you can be of service to Lewis in that moment.
Mhm.
I can say with certainty, I would not be able to thought of something like that, even if I was going on a game show. So I just want to give you
Mhm.
kudos, man. It's learning from you every time we chat, bro. Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. And you don't have to have like an ace way of figuring something out. Now the
Hey there, quick heads up. As you notice, I don't run any ads in this podcast because I hope this episode is able to help you move the needle in the quality of your life. Would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe, share the episode, or leave a review. Perhaps even get in touch. I would love to hear your thoughts. Okay, back to the conversation.
So never ask somebody, I'll do anything you want or whatever you need, I got you, because it's too generic and it just gives them work.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Another thing that throughout building your personal brand, and one thing you've been kind of alluding, sharing with me lately is getting sponsorships, brand sponsorships. And I think that's a foreign topic for so many people. And they think it's like, well, you gotta be a professional athlete to get there. You gotta, have this massive crazy following where you just kind of gotta get lucky. What's that journey like for you? And how has that unfolded?
So the way to get a brand sponsorship is a great way. I mean, you can look at this in a
Mhm.
sense of like networking, like how do I connect with a brand if you
Mhm.
don't, need a sponsorship or anything like that.
Mhm.
But I've noticed that a lot of creators they're always saying, "Oh, sponsor me," and they want a brand to give them product or money or something like that. And there's a almost foolproof way that I have figured out on how to do this. And I have 17 sponsors on the Audi right now, and I use the same strategy with all of them. And if you get in touch with someone, it's almost guaranteed yes. So I like to treat this like a relationship. So when you see someone you like if you go out somewhere and you find a girl that you're interested in, you don't walk up and be like, hi, want to get married? And then she goes, yeah, sure. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't
Mhm.
work like that with a brand either. You can't walk up and say, hi, sponsor me. That's
Mm.
like talk that they're immediately going to get triggered and be like, no, I don't care how many followers you have. I don't care who you are. Like, unless you're Dwayne Johnson, we're not interested. So what you have to do is do a little bit of legwork and figure out what their interests are, what their needs are, and if what you're offering matches up with what they need.
Mhm.
So just like if you're approaching a girl, you're asking her questions. Where are you from? What do you like? What do you like to do in your free time? Like, do you want to get coffee? Oh, you don't like coffee? You want to get ice cream? Do you want to go out to dinner? Like, you have to kind of do a little bit of research there.
Yeah.
In the sense of a brand, you can follow a brand on social media and do some homework on, okay, where is this brand lacking? Is their content not very good? Are they following trends? Are their sales down? Do they have a new product I might be able to promote? Are their followers really low? Do I have an audience that even matches with what their target market would be? So you're doing that same research to figure out, okay, how do I give them a pitch that they can't refuse? So I'm going to give you an example.
Mhm.
Brixton Forged is a wheel company that makes just the best wheels of all time. I love them so much and I wear their merch all the time. Their wheels are like 10 to 15 grand. There is no way I was in any financial position to buy a $15,000 set of wheels to put on my Audi, but I had to have them. So I did some research. I followed them for many years. And then when I finally had a car that I thought was worthy enough to even put a set of wheels on that could market in their demographic, because they make supercar wheels. I can't put them on my Mustang. So I got the supercar and I messaged him and I said, look, I want to get a sponsorship with you guys. I know your wheels cost a ton of money. How many sales basically, or what kind of sales do I need to do to make this make sense? Or what amount of content do I need to do? And we had an open dialogue. And I found a sales guy that had followed me on Instagram that was interested in working with me. And he pitched a couple prices with me that I was like, okay, well, that's still too high. I totally understand if this is the lowest you can go. And based on what I'm offering, I'll reapproach this at a different time, when I can come closer to your asking price. But they really wanted to work with the R8 because they didn't have a Gen 1 R8 rocking Brixtons or doing the kind of content I was doing. So eventually they dropped their price to a point where it met my budget. It was the most money I've ever spent on a car mod ever. But I got it for a price I could afford. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do a certain amount of content for you guys, but here's the part that won them over and win any brand over that you approach. Say in 90 days, I will follow through on whatever it is you're proposing that you think, solves a problem that they tell you they have. So in the case of Brixton, they needed user-generated content and they needed sales. So I said, all right, I'm going to do X number of sales in 90 days, or I'm going to create some really baller content that you guys can have and repost that I will also post on my page that will equal the value that you are offsetting on the cost of these wheels. Or you have my credit card on file, you run it for the retail amount of these wheels. And that was the agreement that made sense for them. So I was not able to, unfortunately, sell a set of $10,000 wheels in 90 days or $15,000 wheels, whatever, you have. But I was able to create a tremendous amount of content that at least offset the discount that they applied to get me the wheels. So I'm continuing to still do marketing for Brixton and send them leads to try to convert some sales. But at the end of the day, they had my credit card for a higher amount of money that they charged because I was unable to do the sales, but I got a massive discount because I was able to do the content. A good example of a company that took a risk on me when I was a fairly new creator was XComp, gave me tires at zero cost. And they said, see if you can get some of these tires on supercars and we will make sure that your R8 keeps XComps on it for free. And I was able to sell a lot of XComps, so I haven't had to pay for a set of tires yet. And I have done photo shoots with their merch. I have gone to meets. I put their logo on the car, and to them, the R8 was worth it. So that was a perfect sponsorship where, if I ever wasn't able to, execute on the sales, they would just basically charge me for the tires that they were giving me. But that day never came. So the risk was always in my hands as the influencer or the creator and never in the brand's hands. So don't approach a brand and say, hey, want to get married, or hey, sponsor me. Approach them and say, you're either going to get the sales or the marketing or the content that I'm promising, or you're going to get a sale from me. You don't have any risk. And what brand's going to say no to that?
I hope you guys are paying attention to what Will just said right there. Will, I think they got to put your personality in the lab and then create an AI clone version of the way that you think and how you're able to solve problem with that service mindset, even for sponsors. Dude, that was brilliant. I never quite heard anyone explain it like that. And then just seeing this unfolding at the level that it's very doable for people.
Anyone can do it. And for the record, my first sponsor, I had less than 10,000 followers. So you don't need 200,000 followers or 150,000 fake Russian bots to land a sponsorship. All 17 sponsors I landed with the original 50,000 followers that I had on my IG or less, and I picked up a good chunk of them under 20,000 followers. So you don't need a crazy number of followers. You just need to follow through on what you say you can do.
Dude, that's amazing, man. We need more Christians in the world that's you, especially in the space of content creating and just making impact on the online world, because that's just such a gap, in my opinion. And I'm always curious, Will, where do you see yourself in like 10 years from now? Because every time I talk to you, you always blow my mind with the latest interesting endeavor. And I'm always amazed in a phenomenal good way. So I'm curious, or are you more of just like, hey, I'm just go with a spur of the moment. I'll kind of pivot as I go. Do you have any large blueprints?
I think it's a mix of both. So ever since I was like 10, I was like, I want a supercar. I want to live in LA, and I want a pit stop with an Air Force career. And I nailed all those things. I think now I'm actually moving to LA in June because I'm in Orange County now. So I would say 10 years from now, I better be in a Murcielago. That is the car of my dreams. I will do whatever it takes to get it. I would love to not be trying to live in a studio apartment in LA. I think upgrading to a house would be very nice. I would love to live in the hills, but if I'm in LA, I'll be happy. And I think the best friend that I've had for the last 4 years that I'm dating now, I see her very much as part of that 10-year plan.
That's
so
amazing,
I think if
man.
I can nail the car, the location, and keep my best friend, I think all will be well. And Mosaic will 100% be the beacon of light that leads all of this.
Oh, that's amazing, man. Well, of course, as a friend, any way I can be a resource for you, you let me know. And you've been such a positive impact in my life. Yeah. So Will, going forward right here, any personal projects you're working on or any passion, anything that me or the audience, we can support you?
Right now, a couple projects. One of them is building the R8. I'm finishing up the wrap this week, and then Nitrous goes on next. I have the support of Ghostworks, the shop that I'm in right now, to finish off that build. That's taken a lot of time, but it'll be worth it. I'm looking for as many public speaking and opportunities like this podcast as possible. I love doing this because it's my chance to take everything I've learned and teach other people, because I would, if I had to give up the car and a place in LA and everything else, but still had impact on podcasts and public speaking, then I'm doing something right. So as many of those opportunities as I can. I don't care how big the group is. I've gone out and done speeches for 5 people, and I've gone out and done speeches for auditoriums completely sold out. So whatever the crew is, if I can, teach someone to live the best possible story, I'm in. And then right now, immediate assistance would be finding at least one high quality roommate for Los Angeles, because I moved there in June. I'm most likely going to live on my own, but if I can find one like-minded, hungry person who's also chasing a dream, that has, the same sense of like integrity, that I could like feed off of their energy, I'm looking for a high quality roommate for Los Angeles.
So let's play that matchmaking for a bit, right? What are you looking for? And for listeners out there, let's run through a gauntlet. What's Will looking for considered as high quality? Yeah.
Honestly, I would say number one, just be clean. If you're clean, we'll get along. If you're super organized, we will get along. Bonus points if you don't have a car, so I can have your parking space where I can buy it from you. And then I would say just a drive. Like, you don't have to be in like the automotive world. I live with 2 car guys right now, and all is amazing because we all the same interests. But one of the best roommates I ever had was a DJ, and I lived with him in LA before I moved to Orange County. And he just had this like positive mindset and this like, I want to go after my career really hard. And when I didn't have energy, but I saw him creating, I was like, okay, well, I got to create something because you're creating something. We have those days where you go home and you're just kind of like, I had a hard day, I'm going to watch Netflix, I deserve it, which is fine. But you can get into that habit. But if you have another creator around you or another driven person, they're going to be like, no, you're getting soft. Like, I'm grinding tonight, you're grinding tonight. Or, hey, let's both go to Starbucks together and let's grind, So I want to be around somebody like that.
Dude, I love it. We are just a product of the environment we're in. And every time I text you or you text me, it's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm working on this podcast. I'm working on this new endeavor. You're like, you're working in the shop. You're doing that.
Dude.
Yeah. What's been a big challenge for you? Perhaps that people don't know so much about connection, personal branding. What would you say is a big challenge for you in the last 3 to 4 years?
A challenge in general, or a challenge with connecting?
I think either way, however you want to kind of frame this. Yeah.
I would say in general, it's slowing down. Like I'm reading a what is it called? Like a Bible plan thing, Bible, the app that gives you the plans to go devotional. Yeah. I'm reading one this week, and it's about like optimizing time, but the whole thing and all the verses are about how Jesus spent time on his own, spent time praying, spent time resting, spent time recharging. And it's difficult to force yourself to do that when you're also in this mindset of, I could die at midnight. Like, this could be my last day. We got to go hard.
Did I live a good life?
Yes, I'm still in my 30s. I still have energy. I still have aspirations, like go, go, go. But like, in one of the devotionals I was doing like 2 nights ago, it was like, the person that takes a full day of rest is going to execute more in 5 days or 6 days than the person that grinds all 7. And I have to constantly remind myself, like, you don't just rest on Sunday. Like, you got to have rest times throughout the day too. And like, I wake up at 6:45, go straight to the gym, and then I hit the day hard. And then I clock out here at 7 p.m. And then I do stuff like this until 8, 9 p.m. So it's like, where do you recover? And there's days where like my brain like will just short circuit at like 2 p.m. and it's because I'm not giving myself enough rest. Or like last night, Ralph found my brain so I love to overthink, man. I'll overthink my day. I'll overthink the invoices. I'll overthink the content. I'll overthink my relationship. Like I'll overthink all this stuff where I'm like, well, what if that goes wrong? Or did I do that right? Or whatever. And we need to take time and like filter that stuff out and be like, okay, well, like all of that overthinking aside, big picture, 1,000 foot down, are we even going the right direction here? All this work you're putting into, are you even on the right course? Are you missing something big? And you can't get that unless you slow down. So I'm pretty bad at slowing down.
Dude, I think that's a problem for all of us, especially the ones that are just have a type A personality, just have a big dream in life. I know that's a challenge for me as well, man. Yeah. Yeah. What are some messages that you wish to kind of tell the audience, that some lessons learned in life for Will, that perhaps maybe you want to tell your younger self, or perhaps just to be a better storyteller, connector, that people don't often get a chance to experience that side of such an interesting life you live?
That's such a broad question. Like good advice for like the kid version of me. I would say the quality that has served me most is integrity. I think that's made me stand out the most. And I think that has been the deciding factor on my closest network of friends. So continue to value integrity. And then I would say, I had someone reach out to me this week, who I served with in the military, and I barely remembered this person. Like we were just in training together, and they were like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, like this whole time, last time I saw them was 2015, 2016. They were like, I just want to let you know that like I'm sorry for like being rude to you in training." And I was like, "What?" And I didn't even remember this. And they were like, "Yeah, I was kind of like making fun of like, I guess your like aspirations. And now it's like almost 9 years later, and you have done everything you said you were going to do. And now I feel like, wow, but it was, I guess, well, first of all, kudos to them for like having the extreme ownership to like mention that. But like, I would say the lesson there is, do not be afraid to dream so crazy, insanely big, because you might pull it off. And I know where I was in 2016 saying stuff like, I'm going to get a supercar and I'm going to live in LA and like, I'm going to do all this fun stuff. Like, yeah, when I'm done, I'm going to do the Air Force, but when I'm done with it, I'm going to be like this YouTuber person. TikTok didn't exist, so I couldn't say I was a TikToker, but like, out of these like ridiculous dreams, and like people in the military, especially, that are very realists, very much a realist, they're just like, what? You can make a career out of that? Like, all right, And I was like, yeah, and I don't want kids, and I don't want a family, and I don't even know if I'm going to get married anytime soon. I'm just going to go do life, and it's going to be the greatest story of all time. And that's exactly what I did. So I would say, if I had to tell like my younger self something, like I already kind of knew it, but I'm just like, hey, it's going to all come true. And I think if you had, I already kind of had that in me. I already kind of had that older version of me that's like, we're going to pull this off. Like without a doubt, we're going to pull all of it off. And the girl I'm dating now even said, like, I remember sitting in a car with her when I was on the phone with someone that's like, dude, like, go get a supercar. Like, this year's the year. And I was like, no, it's not. And it was. I ended up getting it like 3 months after that phone call, and it was terrifying and scary. And I didn't think I'd pull it off. But I remember she told me, she was like, so many times, like, you'll say you're going to do something. I'm like, yeah, you're going to do it. You're going to pull it off. And it's like, I think having that almost like ignorance to failure, where you're just like, some way I'm going to pull it off. We went to go see, on a smaller scale, we went to go see an NCAA game recently for March Madness, and our tickets were way up in the nosebleeds. They were like 3 rows from the top. And she was like, kept talking about like wanting to go sit like lower, how she always gets close seats when she goes watch the Lakers there. And I was like, oh my God, like these are the best seats that I could get. You know what I mean? Like, give me a break. And then finally I was like, all right, well, I don't have the financial bandwidth to get close to court side, but I do have one thing, and that is the art of finesse and really good at fast connections with people and talking my way into things. So let's use that. So I told her, I was like, okay, if you can be flexible with me and think quickly, follow me down to courtside, and I'll get us close to courtside. And I remember just this thought process as we were in the elevator going down to the ground level. I was like, I don't know that this is going to work, but it is. I just know it is, but I don't know, there's no guarantee, but I just knew it was going to work. So I'm in the elevator. I'm kind of nervous because I'm coming up with my strategy on the fly.
Yeah.
And I have like my girl with me who I was like, I didn't want to let her down, you know? And I had to be, I couldn't be the guy that stuck her up in the nosebleeds, you know? So we walked down to the tunnel and the person standing there, and keep in mind, this is a March Madness game. This is like a tournament game.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is a Sweet
Sold
16.
Yeah.
It's not some like random college basketball game. And it was downtown LA and in the crypto arena. And we walked up to the lady that checks your tickets, and you know, of course, her brain is programmed to do one thing:
checking tickets.
Look at your phone.
Yeah.
Look at your phone.
Yeah.
So I said, as I was walking up, she reached out her hand to do her, you know, muscle memory task of checking a phone, and I said, could you do me a huge favor and just take our picture together in the little awning thing here? And she was like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
So I stand next to my girl. We look at her. She's taking pictures. And, you know, as she takes pictures, I was like, oh, it's her first Carolina game. I'm so excited to take her here. You know, like I'm from Chapel Hill and everything. She's like, oh, I love that. And I was like, you know, make sure you get like a good picture and everything. She's like, okay. She takes a bunch of pictures. And then you know what she does?
Yeah.
She hands me the phone and completes the transaction in her brain of I have to take a phone from someone, look at something and hand it back. So we were good to go. And I looked at my girl Corley and I was like, let's go. Go now. Go now.
No
so we
way.
turn and we just start walking down towards courtside. And then at this point, it's this fast-paced game of how fast can I find 2 open seats?
Yeah.
Because that's the next task. And I was like, okay, we made it past security. And as soon as we walked away, the next couple people came up. She's like, okay, I need your tickets. You know, her brain didn't rest her. She hadn't checked our tickets yet because I created a little bit of conversation to distract her. I created a quick connection, a little personal. Hey, it's her first game. We're having fun. Thanks for the picture, you know. And then it was just enough to throw her off of that routine where she forgot to check our tickets. So we're walking down. I see 2 empty seats and I sit down. And then the guy next to me goes, hey, those are taken.
Yeah.
We were like 8-10 rows up from courtside.
Sure.
We're pretty close.
Sure.
And I was like, as I'm sitting there, like I can't red flag. There's like security walking everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, there's ushers and stuff. And I look at him and I was like, before we stand up, do you know if there's any 2? And he goes, the 2 in front of me have been empty the whole game. And I was like, thank you so much. And it was a fan of the opposing team too. Yeah. Like I'm head to toe Carolina gear, and it was an opposing team. And he's like the 2 in front, and I just without thinking, I hop up, I stand over the seats, I picked up Corley and sat her down, and I looked back at him, and I was like, I'm cheering for your team for the next 5 minutes and the next 5 minutes only. And he goes, you got it, man, as long as you're not annoying. And I was like, deal. And that's all it took. And then we watched the game from like these incredible seats, and it was this sense of we're going to get down there no matter what. And I promise you, if we got kicked out of those seats or asked to leave or if the people show up, I already had plan B in my head. I'm already scoping out the next set of seats that we can relocate to nonchalantly enough to not trigger anyone's attention. This is how I watched Taylor Swift from the ground, by the way. I watched Taylor Swift from like 10 different locations when I went to watch her perform because those floor seats are expensive. Oh, but everybody's going to go to the bathroom eventually.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, so you just kind of pop around and stuff. I did this at Coldplay too. I got some like $3,000-$4,000 seats at Coldplay just because I finessed my way in. So like it was this mindset of like, I'm going to do it no matter what. And I'm doing it in a way that doesn't take anything from anyone. I'm not robbing anyone of their experience.
That's right.
I'm just augmenting mine. But I'm doing it in a way of like, you know, we didn't have to steal anything to go down there. We didn't have to lie. Like we didn't have to, you know, take anything from her or anyone else. We were just occupying a seat that was otherwise going to go empty. So, and that just raw confidence of I'm going to figure my way up down there and I belong down there and we're going to make it happen. So if you can look at different opportunities, you know, like that photo shoot for the TikTokers I talked about in the beginning, or anywhere else you want to be, whether it's buying a supercar or buying a house or living someplace. If you look at it in the sense of I've already got the seat, it's already mine, then you'll get there. And it sounds cliche, but when you rewire your brain to start thinking like that, your brain not only starts to see it as something my girlfriend likes to describe it as something you deserve. I like to see it as something that's already happened and you're just like fulfilling it. You know, it's like, and then there's a rush that you get from it too. When you pull it off, you're like, oh dang, it actually worked, you know? And if it doesn't work, your brain goes into, okay, well, what's the solution? How do we get there? Because like, you know, if we got kicked out of that seat, my brain would have kicked into, okay, well, where's the next available seat? You know, if you're trying to buy a supercar and then you don't get the supercar, okay, well, what's the next thing that needs to happen to get me to the supercar? Because supercar is already mine. I'm going to find my way out, you know, figure out how to get there. So rewiring your brain to start thinking like that, where something is essentially already yours. It's just a matter of connecting the dots to get there.
What you just said, I think it's going to be shared so many times. I already know it, man. This just insensible drive to make it happen. To your point, it's already happened. I'm curious, for entrepreneurs like us, we think like that. It's almost like when we set our mind, when we focus on something, we ignore the naysayers, for opposition of people around us. I'm curious for that skill for folks that maybe don't have that strong mental resiliency like you and I. Is that something they can improve upon through life?
Yeah,
or
absolutely. You can learn that. We need to make some t-shirts that say ignorant to failure. You can steal that idea.
There we go.
Yeah, just ignorant to failure. That's the new clothing brand. Yeah, you can absolutely learn it. And there's a TED talk that I watched years back. You could definitely go find it. It was watched by a ton of people. And I think it was like 100 days of failure, or experiencing failure for 100 days or something like that, where this guy had, I think I'm trying to remember because I watched this years ago, but he had a risk of some sort or something out of his comfort zone that he had to do every day for I think it was 100 days or 75 days or something. And he got used to the rejection. So day one was asking, I think it was asking for something at Starbucks, like a free coffee or something like that. Like, would it be crazy to give me a Starbucks? And then, they're like, no. And then he's like, well, that wasn't so bad, And then he also talks about his strategy in framing the questions. He used phrases like, is it crazy to ask? And then you're kind of on the same page of, yeah, it is kind of crazy, but you're asking. But because we both understand that it's crazy, they're more open to the idea.
Yeah.
So he did that enough days in a row where he was by day 100 or whatever the last day was, he was like, I didn't even care if I got rejected anymore. Just I wouldn't care if security came around and was like, those aren't your seats. I'd be like, you know what? They're not. And then I'd stand up and leave. It'd be no problem. However, my girlfriend would have had a panic attack if somebody came by and was like, those aren't your seats. She'd be like, oh my God, you're right. I'm going straight to jail. She would have freaked out because she doesn't do this type of finesse that I have become, it's once, one of my personality, but she takes those kinds of risks, I would say, in her business and stuff, where she is willing to push the boundaries. But, you got to start, I write about this in my book, where you got to start looking at life like a video game where, if you're playing around in GTA, what rule, you're not looking at GTA
Let's go,
and playing it and saying you know what I mean? You're not okay, well, let me follow all the rules of the game and complete the campaign exactly how the designers intended. No, you're how can I break the rules and steal a fighter jet? Everybody wants to get on a military base, steal a fighter jet. So you got to look at the rules of life here and be okay, well, what rules can I bend? And from a Matrix-esque standpoint, or in the sense of our NCAA game, where can I push the boundaries here? I'm not saying go out and steal a car, but I'm saying what rules can you bend a little bit that might not be the social norm? Because the rules of crypto arena are you buy a ticket and you go sit your seat, you watch the game and you leave.
Right.
My rules are you go buy a ticket that gets you in the stadium and then you figure out how you can get the closest possible seat for the best possible story.
Let's go, man. Let's go, man. Dude, that's amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this journey right here. I know the audience are just glued on to the edge of their seat. And what are the chances? Well, can we ask you to share another crazy life story that's over the top? Anything you'd like to share? Yeah.
I got you. I'll do the time that I'll let you pick. I got into a really ridiculous music festival way outside of where I should have been for $2, or the time that I made it to the best front row, best concert, best day of my entire life for $100. Which one do you want to know?
Oh, okay. I think let's go with the $2 one. That sounds more intense right there. And guys, pay this how he tells a story, because he just captivates you. All right, here we go.
So this one's also in my book, The Art of Unpredictability. I have a bunch of stories like this, and I kind of break down how to pull it off. This was how I got front row, beyond front row, almost on stage and backstage access to a Calvin Harris show for a sold out crowd of 400,000 people in the middle of Las Vegas. So, and I spent $2. So I agreed to go to this charity project called The Bus that my friend Rob Jones started. He said, if I pull this off, we fly out to Vegas and help me hand out food and supplies to homeless people. And I was like, you got it. I've never been to Vegas before, but let's do it. So I got on a plane from North Carolina, flew out to Vegas. We did the homeless outreach thing for a couple hours. It was 8 p.m. at night. We were done. I was ready to go to sleep. I was looking at Snapchat stories, and I saw some DJs that I had done a video for a long while back. You want to talk about connections and network and leveraging them, was on this crazy huge stage in Vegas. And I had my camera gear with me, and I messaged him. I was like, hey, are you guys performing still? I'll come shoot a video. I'm in town. And they're like, oh, we performed last night, but if you want to go tonight, it's this festival called EDC and we can get you a pass. And I was like, okay. And they're like, we're not going tonight. You can just have our passes. So I pull up to their hotel, I get their badge, and then I tell my friend Rob, I was like, drop me off in the racetrack out in the middle of the desert. This thing called EDC is going on. I had never heard of EDC. For those who've never heard of it, it's the largest EDM festival in the country. It's bigger than Ultra and Coachella put together. It is like 4 times the size of Coachella. It's in the middle of a racetrack, and it's like every DJ you've ever heard of in the world is together for like 3 nights in a row. And he drops me off at EDC. I try to walk in. They're like, whoa, you can't go through this entrance. You have an artist wristband. You're supposed to go through this entrance. And they put me on a golf cart and dropped me off backstage. And then I was walking around. I had on a plain white t-shirt, cargo shorts, and my little DSLR camera and an all access on stage wherever I want to go wristband. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to shoot a video of probably some of the biggest artists in the world. And I have never done anything like this before. Up to that point, I had shot only like small clubs and stuff in North Carolina. There's 400,000 people at EDC. It is massive. So I was walking around the festival grounds and I made my way to main stage. Main stage is 400 yards wide. It is absolutely insane. It's so big, you can barely see the DJ. I'm in the pit. So you have like the front row, then you have the barricade, then you have this little tiny zone that's like 10 feet wide for camera guys. And then you have this stage. And my wristband got me anywhere. So I'm standing in the pit. I'm filming this massive crowd. They have fireworks going. They have pyro. They have people on big stilts. They have people crowd surfing in dinghy boats. They have the most elaborate, like, think like Willy Wonka meets like an acid trip and put those people on a stage and like give them trampolines and neon like light outfits. Like I can't even tell you, like I'm witnessing all this sober, by the way. Like I was filming totally just in the moment and I was overwhelmed by everything that was happening. And the guy on the stage goes, everybody, thank you so much for watching me tonight. The next artist up stage is going to be Alesso. He's going to play for you guys. My name is Calvin Harris. Good night. And I was like, oh my God, like what a big artist. And he plays some of his biggest hits. I'm filming this crowd. And I was just like, this is the greatest experience ever that I never knew I was going to experience until like an hour ago. Like I just stumbled into it. And I'm walking around and I was like, okay, I got to find a way to make sure that I can do this again more often because I don't want this to be a one-time experience. I am hooked. So I started asking any camera guys that I happened to see around the festival grounds, who's your boss? Who's your boss? And I would get names until I asked enough of them, reported, they all gave me different names, but one name kept coming up the most and it was this girl named Amanda. So then I started talking to one of them. I was like, hey, do you work for Amanda too? And they're like, yeah. I was like, yeah, Amanda's real cool. I was like, by the way, I lost her email. I need to ask her something. Do you have her email? And he was like, yeah. So I was like, cool, thanks. So I got Amanda's email and then I got her last name too. And then I asked one of the media guys, I was like, oh, do you know where like the media center is? I got to go back and like download some footage. And they're like, oh yeah, it's like over here or whatever. So I walk up to the media center. They have security. They're looking for media passes, which I didn't have. And they're like, oh, you can't come in. I was like, oh, that's fine. I have a meeting with, and I listed Amanda's full name. And they're like, oh, sure. 1 second. We'll go get her. And I was like, oh, shoot. So they go up and they come down with this girl. And then she goes, I don't know who that is. And I was like, wait, Amanda, I need to talk to you for 5 minutes. My name is Will. I have an artist pass. I have filmed the most epic after movie of this festival at all time. Can you give me 5 minutes? And then she looks at security. She goes, I got this. So she's like, follow me. So I walk with her. I was like, thank you so much. I was like, this is incredible. I heard you're the person in charge. Everyone I have spoken to in the field has said good things about you. It sounds like you're a great leader and I would love to work with you in the future. This is some of the stuff that I'm working on now, some of the stuff I'm filming. And I remember we stood up on top of the media center. We overlooked EDC. You had roller coasters going around, you had big Ferris wheels, they had a whole ship on wheels that was like going through the festival. And again, all the people in their outfits walking around, and everything is neon because it exists from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So it's the middle of the night and you see fireworks in the distance. You hear there's 12 stages. So you hear all these DJs performing and she's like, it's pretty incredible, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, this place is magic. I have to come back. What is it going to take? And she said, well, send me an email of the video that you make, and then I'll let you know if we can get you on the team. And I was like, you got it. I'll do whatever it takes. Wow. So I finished the video and I emailed her and I didn't get a response. And I copied on Insomniac, the company that produces EDC. And I emailed them 2 months later, and then again 3 months later, and then 4 months later. I has no reply. And then I put it on YouTube. And it got a couple views and I kept sending them that link. I was like, hey, I would love to work with you. And then finally, they emailed me back. It was like 8 months later, something crazy. And they're like, look, we're hiring for this year's team. Number one, you should not have been given this type of access. No one else is supposed to film EDC but Insomniac, and we technically own the rights to all that footage or something along those lines. Take it down immediately. Number two, you're hired. This video is incredible. And I was like, all right, we're in, you know?
Yeah.
Relentlessness paid off. By the way, the
my
$2
gosh.
I spent
Yeah.
was on an apple because I hadn't eaten for like 15 hours, and I went to a juice bar and I
Yeah.
needed something that wasn't like a churro or a pizza slice.
Yeah.
And I was like, can you give me an apple? And they're like, yeah. I was like, how much do you want for it? And they're like, I don't know, like $2. So I bought an apple so I wouldn't pass out at EDC. But I got in, and then once I was hired, they said, okay, we need you to learn how to, they're like, do you know how to work I forgot the name of the camera, but it was like a streaming camera, it was a Red Dragon, I think was the name of it. It was a high-end cinema camera. And I was like, yeah, of course, I got you, no problem. And they're like, okay, because we don't have time to train you. We're going to give you this camera when you get here. You need to know how to use it. You start streaming right away. And I was like, all right, you got it. And they're like, we're going to start you off entry level, lowest pay. You got to get to Vegas on your own. And after then, work your way up. And I was like, you got it. And then I was like, all right, well, I have no idea how to use that camera. It's like a $50,000 camera. But
yeah,
there is a trade show going on next month in Paramount Studios where Red will be there, and they're going to be showing off their camera. So I went to the Red booth in this trade show because it was free to go to the trade show with the other airmen that I was going to bring with me to shoot EDC with me. And I asked them every feature about the camera. I was like, oh yeah, we're like a production crew for the military, which was true. I was like, we're always, looking into new cameras and stuff. Tell me everything about it. So they spent like an hour educated. They didn't have anybody in the tent. We were all hanging out, having fun. And I also told them about EDC. And I was like, look, I need to be very equipped to use this camera in like a couple months. Can you give me a crash course? And the guy's like, I got you. So he taught me how to use a camera there. And I went there with only one lesson on the camera and some YouTube tutorials, showed up to EDC, already caught up to speed, and filmed. And I out-hustled everybody. I showed up early. I stayed late. I did jobs that weren't mine to help them out. I was the last person to leave. And the boss was like, okay, you out-hustle everybody. Instead of this camera, you're now being relocated to a bigger stage next year, and you'll do this camera instead. And across it was like 8 years or something like that, I worked my way to the top where they flew us in and out. They put us up in like a really nice suite. They paid us more money in a weekend than I was making all month with the Air Force. We got the camera of our choice. I got to work with the airmen that I wanted to. We got full access to roam around any stage we wanted. So we could get on stage with everyone from Calvin Harris to Alesso to the Chainsmokers to Timmy Trumpet to Stevie Aoki. We became close friends with all these DJs because we're hanging out backstage with them because we have the highest grade of access at EDC and continue to network while we were there working. And it just paid off in spades because across that year, we were able to meet everyone in the industry, and we just out-hustled everybody that was filming because we were Air Force guys. We were there to just show up and execute, and it paid off. So for $2, we got an 8-year long relationship with Insomniac, filming the biggest music festival in the country. Dude, just from like hustling and kind of sneaking your way into things and delivering value.
Well, can I say something, brother? I'm hearing from a man that's living his God-given purpose right there. Everybody's got a unique calling. And your story, man, the stuff that you went through, no one can really pull that off. And I don't think anybody I know.
Anyone can pull it off. Anyone can pull it off. Yeah. I promise you. Yeah. It comes with just putting yourself out of the comfort zone. I love what you're saying. But like, that's the point of telling the story is to teach anyone how to do it. Because can you pull off the exact same story? No, it's unique. It's its own thing. But can you get yourself into another festival with a similar strategy and mindset? I think absolutely. Is it going to be very uncomfortable for you? Are some of them not going to pan out just like they did for me? Yeah. But if you just keep, the seat is mine. The seat is mine. You'll make it on stage with the people you want to be on stage with.
You mentioned that you're writing a book. Are you currently writing that book right now? Or
no, the book was published in like 2016.
Okay.
It's already out.
Okay.
The Art of Unpredictability. And every chapter is a different story like this one. So it's different ways of finessing your way into things. It's, how to get out a police ticket. It's how to create adventure out of nothing. It's how to cheat death, and like there's a whole bunch of things. But you read the book out of order, and it would still make sense.
Yeah.
Each chapter is its own thing.
Is it on Amazon? Is there a place where people can buy a copy? Okay.
Yep.
So
Art of Unpredictable. I think I make $1.50 per copy. I priced it as low as possible.
Well, you guys enjoyed Will. He's got a lot more coming in that book. So what I'm gonna do is I'll put a link in the description, so you'll have that. Would you like me to put your Instagram handle in there as well for folks that want to connect?
Yeah,
with
sure.
You? Okay.
Yeah.
So all
shoot me a
that
message or reply to every
description.
DM.
Yeah. Well, this has been real, man. Every time I talk to you, I just feel like I'm a kid at a candy store. I'm learning so much.
There you go.
For folks that just
awesome.
Iron sharpens iron, you've always sharpened the kid side of me, a part that I've kind of lost over the years. And I'm so grateful for you, brother. So grateful.
I love it, man.